Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, and welcome to a regular meeting of the East Windsor Regional School District. Written advance notice of this meeting was provided at least 48 hours ago. Such notice provided the time, date, and location of the meeting and included the agenda to the extent it was known at the time. Notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with law. Minutes of this meeting are being kept by the board secretary and will be made available promptly to any member of the public requesting them from the board secretary at 25A Leshen Lane, Hightstown, New Jersey. Minutes will be provided at cost and in accordance with board policy. Are there any board members present who believe this meeting to be in violation of the Open Public Meeting Act? There being none, we may proceed. In compliance with the fire code of the state of New Jersey, I call your attention to the emergency exits for this room, which are located in the back on the left and the right, and our sides on the left and the right. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item B.
Having read the materials received, I move the agenda be approved as submitted.
Please poll the board. Second.
Sorry, 1 second. Ms. Concepcion. Sorry, I didn't hear. Did she say yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Drake.
Yes.
Ms. LaRusso.
Yes.
Mr. Laverty.
Yes.
Ms. Patel.
Yes.
Mr. Weeks.
Yes.
Ms. Lands.
Yes. Item C.
Be it resolved that the East Windsor Regional School District may hold 2 closed sessions at this meeting. These closed sessions concern personnel, HIB report of January 27th, 2025, settlement agreement. Minutes of these closed sessions will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Second.
Please poll the board.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Ms. Drake.
Yes.
Ms. LaRusso.
Yes.
Mr. Laverty.
Yes.
Ms. Patel.
Yes.
Mr. Weeks.
Yes.
Ms. Lands.
Yes. We'll now move on to our student representatives report.
Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, Sanjeet could not attend today, so it will just be me, but I have a lot of activities to report to you regarding our student body. First, I would like to talk about the end of the second marking period, which is this Friday, and also the end of the first semester of the school year. As always, we hope for students and parents and guardians to monitor their academic progress and recognize future room for improvement as we head into marking period 3. But we would like to first commend our students for all their hard work this semester. Additionally, marking period 2 report cards will be out shortly as grades will be finalized on February 7th. Moving on to athletics, our Hightstown winter sports teams have been having phenomenal performances. Our swim team, for example, on the 25th competed at the Mercer County CVC Championship and did an incredible job with placings in the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 8th, and 11th place. Next, we would like to commend our indoor track team for their performance at the CVC Championships last weekend. Not only did student Burke Thompson win the 1600-meter conference title and Terrence Williams won in the 55-meter dash, but we also had Aisha Somersell, Jaden Bosley, and Sienna Rivera medaling for the girls' team. Our cheer teams, additionally, also had incredible success yesterday at the Liberty Lion Cheer Challenge, where they took first place in both their traditional and game day divisions, won picture-perfect pyramid, and had the highest score to make them the game day grand champs. Finally, we'd like to congratulate the boys and girls wrestling team at their CVC conference tournament, where student Chris Croppanese was the boys champion and Kira Reyes and Gabby Sanon Jules were the girls champions. In short, we are very proud of our teams and wish them all the best as they finish their seasons in the coming weeks. Speaking about athletics, we would like to also emphasize that spring sports registration is open until February 2nd. Anyone who wishes to participate in any of the 2024 to 2025 spring athletic programs offered must register on the Genesis Parent Portal. We will not be offering extensions and are excited to see our students take advantage of this opportunity. Next, we were excited to announce that the inter-school chess tournament will be happening tomorrow. Our very own chess club invites all students to join this annual event after school in the Hightstown Library. Participants who rank at the top will have the opportunity to represent Hightstown at the state tournament coming up this March. Interested players can sign up using the QR code on the flyers posted around the school or through the chess club's Google Classroom, so please make sure to show up. Quick announcement for the senior class. The senior class advisors are now taking orders for cap and gowns. Cap and gowns cost $30 each, and so payments can be made using Ticket Spigot, so please email or see Mr. Bucci or Mr. Fedema to provide your height, weight, and cap and gown color choice. Orders placed after April 11th will be $40. Finally, we would like to congratulate the HHS winners from the 2025 NJ Thespian Festival. Each of these students earned a superior score by the judges of their respective categories and are now eligible to compete at the International Thespian Festival at Indiana University in June. We wish them all the best in their preparation efforts. This concludes the end of the report. Thank you everyone for listening, and we look forward to seeing you again at the next meeting and are very excited to hear the upcoming performances. Thank you.
Thank you for that concise report. Does the board have any questions? No, I just wanted to say congratulations to all our students' accomplishments in their extracurricular activities. Try to take notes. There's just so many to name. So way to go, guys. We'll move on to item 3, and our first presentation of the evening is our student performances from the middle school and high school bands and orchestra.
Good evening, everyone. Just a quick introduction. So tonight, special evening. Thanks for joining us. January is Board Recognition Month in the state of New Jersey. So as a small token of appreciation, I thought it would be fitting to have an opportunity to hear and see some student performances. It's also an opportunity to see the work that the board supports as it relates to programs within our school district. So this will fall under the co-curricular umbrella tonight. We're going to hear some musical performances from our middle school program, beginning with our orchestra, I believe. Then we'll transition up to the high school. At the conclusion of the musical performances, we are then going to transition into recognizing some of our student artists who participated in a calendar, a district calendar for 2025. Each board member, as a small token of appreciation, also has a calendar before them this evening to show the great work of our students, but also the important tutelage of our art educators within our school district. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over, I believe, to Ms. D'Amico for the middle school orchestra. Board members, if you would prefer to sit in the front row to have a better visual of the performers, I'd suggest you do so. Thank you.
Okay, that's a little better, so I don't have to shout. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ms. D'Amico. I am the orchestra director at MHK Middle School, and this here is our 8th grade orchestra. So we're going to play one piece for you tonight entitled Fiddles on Fire. Before we play, I just wanted to give a huge thank you to both our board and our administration for their support of our programs. Without all of the work you all put in, this doesn't happen. So I'm super appreciative, and I know the rest of my music team here is as well. So without further ado, the 8th grade orchestra. Thank you so much.
Is it the, like, you want to put that right there?
Wonderful. Turn it off.
There it is. There, you got it.
We're good? Amazing. Thank you so much. How about that orchestra? For those of you who don't know, my name is Mr. Smith. I'm the director of the 8th grade band and the co-director of the jazz band. It's really great to be here tonight. One of our jazz bands, we have 2 at the middle school. We're going to play a tune called Sideways Walking Dog. I hope you enjoy it.
Thanks again. We're going to have a quick swap. The gold band under Mr. Longwell is going to come up. Nice. Good. Easy, right? Light work. Light work. Back row. Go out back to the chorus room. You, Allison, you can just follow right along. You guys can get out however you got to get out.
Good evening. My name is Mr. Longwell. As Mr. Smith said, I am the other co-director of the jazz band at Krebs. Before you, we have the Gold Jazz Band. We're going to be playing one selection for you this evening. It's a holiday classic. I think you're going to get it right away. You're going to hear a trumpet duet in the back from Rudra Patel and Amin Mohammed. We hope you enjoy Frosty the Snowman.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Miss O'Day. This is our Heightstown High School Jazz Ensemble. Thank you for giving us a second. We had some technical difficulties. We're going to perform a chart for you called Rhodomap, originally by the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Jazz Orchestra. And on this, you're going to hear a solo from Leah Pacelli on trumpet and Daniel Cargile on trombone. Thank you.
Let's have another round of applause for our student performance this evening. Excellent job.
My computer's kind of thinking, but we'll not move on to item. First, I wanted to say thank you to all of our talented student musicians and our dedicated and passionate music teachers. They really love what they do, and we are very grateful to have them in district, and we're very grateful to have the programming. So yes, we'll move on to item 3B, which is our artist presentation.
Libby, I'm going to turn things over to you. All right.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Libby Gopal. I'm the District Visual and Performing Arts Supervisor here in East Windsor Regional School District, and I am thrilled to celebrate our featured artists for being one of the 15 student artists selected for the EWRSD 2025 Arts Calendar. The featured calendar artwork showcases the talent of the individual student and highlights the overall excellence of our art program here in the East Windsor Regional School District. In order to honor this achievement of artistic excellence, we are going to individually call each student artist on stage or right here next to me and award them with a certificate of artistic achievement. One of our art teachers from the district is going to accompany us. We have Miss Regina Caruso from MHK here with us. We have Miss Ariane Yerson from EMK, and we have Tamika Diaz here from GNR helping to assist with recognizing our wonderful students. So when we call your name, if you could please come on up here, and Mr. Daniels, if you could join me, that'd be great.
Block them from walking.
You know what? Well, we're okay. Sure? Yes, I can make it work. All right, Ryan Liastro, come on up. Dominic Delgado Angamarca. Cameron Morris.
Good job, Cameron.
Arvi Ray. Elizabeth Shee.
Yeah, get your certificate here.
Ashley Delgado.
Good job, Ashley.
Allison Campos Núñez.
Good job.
Irene Tong.
Great job.
Noor Hassan.
Congratulations. Great job.
Eileen Erras Campoverde. Diana Duerto Paredes. Let's give them all a nice round of applause. Thank you so much.
Congratulations to all our students. Thank you for your contributions in the beautiful calendar. And thank you to our creative and dedicated teachers. Our next item is item 3C, our strategic goal update.
I'm gonna.
Okay, we're going to take a little 5-minute recess.
Okay, I think we'll transition into the presentation. We're gonna take care of these lights shortly, but I don't want us to hold up the presentation just for the lights. All right, I figured you would. All right. So, quick introduction here. So, if you recall last year, thank you so much. Thank you. So last year we engaged the community in a strategic planning process to seek feedback regarding kind of setting the stage and the roadmap for the next 5 years in terms of priorities for the school district. So from that process, which really took about between 4 and 6 months, the district came up with 5 goal areas. Those goal areas were student-centered learning, staffing, community engagement, facilities and finance, culture and climate. Within each of those goal areas, there were also goal statements as well as objectives to support the goals over that 5-year window. Tonight serves as a brief update. We actually originally scheduled to do this update in December. A few things were kind of getting in the way, and we moved it to tonight. So tonight will be kind of twofold. One, the initial portion of the presentation will provide an update regarding each of the 5 goal areas, kind of from a district lens, and then we'll transition to getting a sense of what's happening at the building level, and that'll be delivered kind of from a school level standpoint, K2, 3, 5, 6, 8 in the high school. I will say that in terms of the information that we're going to share tonight, the intent is not to address every objective related to a specific goal area. Actually, some of the goals we may, but we've kind of tried to hone in on specific objectives related to specific goals. For the building level, they will not be addressing every goal area because every goal area doesn't always apply directly in terms of where we are currently. So to begin things tonight, we will begin with goal 1. For this portion of the presentation, there'll be an emphasis on the objective 1.1, which is on STEM. And we're really going to talk tonight specifically regarding kind of the K-8 trajectory as it relates to STEM within the school district. So I'm going to turn things over to, I believe, Christine Steiner, supervisor of our K2.
Applause not necessary, but thank you. So, go right ahead. So primarily my role is K2 supervisor, but in the STEM realm, it is a responsibility that I've assumed from a K5 perspective. So thinking about our elementary schools, we began our STEM journey in the 18-19 school year. And so this is something that we've been invested in. It began really as a related arts endeavor of this is an experience our children will go to, and the engineering design process is really what has driven that work. So our students were engaged in challenges. Here's a problem that we're noticing. How are we going to address that? What are some possibilities? What can we create? Really to foster a mindset with our students of having them be willing to take educational risks, to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, to have them work with partners and teams, to develop collaboration and communication, which are the 4 C's of 21st century learning. And that was sort of our driving force in terms of how are we going to start this process with the thought in mind that our goal is not to have STEM live in the STEM lab, but wanting us to infuse this into all of the work that we're doing in our elementary classrooms, having it start with that kernel and growing from there. And that's kind of been our ongoing conversation and focus of how do these critical thinking skills, thought processes, soft skills, if you will, how do they infiltrate all of the work that we're doing in our K-5 classrooms? So we have just 2 short examples for you. When we started the STEM classroom as a related arts endeavor, we were very conscious about making connections in STEM to the science curriculum. So for example, second graders are studying simple machines, and one of the challenges that they're involved in is designing a playground that is using levers and simple machines in their designs. And in third grade, they are designing confetti launchers, which connects to the study of energy in their science curriculum. So it's a natural connection in our homeroom classrooms to make that connection in our science world. So in K2, for example, our units of study are embedding performance tasks, which are really connected to that design process that they're using in the STEM classroom. So a lot of those same procedures and thinking skills are showing up in our science rooms where children are collaborating, working together to design solutions to situations and problems. In the math classroom, both at K2 and 3-5, this is another opportunity for us to connect to that type of thinking. So our current approach in math uses the idea of productive struggle and presenting students with a solve and share problem, where we're introducing a situation or problem to them where they might not have received direct instruction yet, but we're asking them to engage with partners to come up with ways that they might be able to address and solve that problem. That approach is expanded in the 3-5 world, where they're using something called vertical whiteboards in their math classrooms. And so this is really, again, connecting to those 4 C's, where students are collaborating and communicating with their team as they are making their thinking come alive on these vertical whiteboards, working out their solutions, talking about what our next steps might be, or does my solution make sense, and really trying to find ways to infuse those skills that I talked about on the previous slide of taking educational risks and critical thinking and finding ways of communicating and being creative as we're approaching educational problems, but really looking for those real world connections and how those skills will assist our students beyond the classroom.
In the middle school, we now have students coming up from the elementary who have had that full experience that Christine just discussed in K-2, up to 3-5, and in 6-8. Like the elementary, 6-8 began the STEM in the science area of our curriculum, and that was in 2018. Since then, we have expanded the science out to branch into the humanities, and really taking those 4 C's and looking at the creativity and the critical thinking. We were already infusing the IDM model in social studies. That's the inquiry design modules. They are from the C3 frameworks for citizenship. There are a lot of mandates in 6-8 related to citizenship and global citizenship, and making sure that students are looking at the world around them and their place in it. That dovetailed very nicely with the 4 C's. Into that came the design thinking cycle in the middle school. In the science classes, they went through that for about 3 years. We were in the science curriculum and moved that out into social studies. And that was not just a quick shift. That involved training of staff. That involved communication between the STEM teachers, acting to facilitate those cross-articulations, building each of the challenges to ensure that the scientific principles were still a priority, but that those thinking routines and those thinking skills were embedded in a way where it flowed naturally in the humanities. And again, because they were well trained in the IDM framework, the teachers in the humanities were already teaching students those critical 4 C's and asking them to look at problems and see how they could possibly solve them. That inquiry kind of expands their ability to then go into research, which is a big part of the middle school experience. they go into research, they learn how to ask better questions, how to use those questions to attack or approach problems, and then to look at those problems and see if there are different ways to solve them. And that speaks right to that design framework. Did I just go? No, I wanted to go back. Thank you. So these are the modules we're sharing with you that are currently in the social studies curriculum. And we did begin last year. This was something that we built all summer. We began last year, and we had limited integration. We moved this year from 2 STEM teachers to 3 STEM teachers, each working at a different grade level, and working with the core social studies team to build each of these areas. And like Christine, I'm going to give you an example. In the 7th grade, we just finished a challenge that was on monuments. The students had to, in their social studies class, consider who's worthy of a monument. Why would a monument be built? What are the important factors we consider in giving a person a monument? So they had to go through and do some research. They worked with the library media specialist. That involved looking at valid resources, looking at bias in resources, and then they brought it out into the STEM lab, and they actually built prototypes of their monuments. And they had to look at what is the infrastructure? Where is it going to go? What is the building materials? If you're building it on a high mountain, it better be flexible. And they tinkered and built those in the lab. When they were all done, they were facilitated with questions that had them look at their model and say, is this the best it could be? How could I change it if I changed the geography, if I changed how it was received? By a population or someone who looks at it and says maybe there should be a monument for someone else. So they're looking at both of those within the structure. In the first 4 days, they go into the STEM lab. And then the next 4 days, the STEM teacher comes with the social studies class, and they continue the inquiry through that research and that writing. So we bring in writing, and they have to defend their position through argumentative literacy for that monument. So each of the challenges go in that format. They have 8 days each quarter in STEM. So this year we've almost doubled our STEM time in the middle school. They have 32 days a year of STEM. And in each of those, they get together, they collaborate as a team, and they present that out to the students. We also have refined our rubrics to reflect the work that Christine is doing down in K-5, because the students are coming up with stronger skills, and we're responding to those with unique or different or more complex challenges for the students. Yes, thank you. We have not left science. We started in science, and that is really the foundational courses. Those challenges are still in science, and these are the ones that are embedded in the curriculum for each of the years. In each area, they're embedded in different branches of science so that the students see how STEM weaves through each of those areas. And again, they are facilitated by a science teacher who has that strong background in STEM and worked for 3 years before the STEM teachers moved on at building these, perfecting them, sometimes changing them, right? If the students come into a challenge and it's not really fitting their needs or developing their thinking, we have made some tweaks to the challenges. And that work went on throughout the last 2 years. These are the challenges that stay in STEM, and like the STEM in the social studies, they branched out and they've been slightly refined based on the skills that the students are bringing, because now they're seeing it in 2 different disciplines. Moving forward, we have a PLC right now in our humanities. We are working with the ELA teams as well, and we are looking at where we can embed some of the research and media skills into the design process a little bit more in that content area, bringing it into ELA, not with an additional challenge, but with a different lens, kind of taking the challenges that they're doing in social studies, saying, I wonder if, and kind of researching that and seeing where they can go with it. That might result in changes to the challenges in humanities as the students learn more, and we respond to that with our instruction.
Okay, so moving along, goal 2 is staffing. The goal statement focused on staffing was obviously to recruit and retain staff who reflect the rich background of our student population. Tonight, I'm only going to highlight Objective 2.3, which talks about ensuring that the professional development plan is aligned with the district's vision, mission, and established goals. So I'll rewind the clock a little bit. So last school year, we invested in PSYOP training for several of our teacher cohorts throughout the district, especially those teachers who obviously are working and connected to bilingual and ESL classrooms. But not only that, we realize that if you're working in the East Windsor Regional School District, odds are you are going to have some level of interaction and will be responsible for some instruction related to a multilingual learner. So PSYOP is just an acronym for Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. It's an approach to kind of connect learning in an intentional manner for students who may not come to the classroom speaking English as their primary language, but recognizing that they do bring strengths and experiences to that classroom, and how do we leverage that to kind of maximize their educational experience with English as the primary goal moving forward, but not to abandon the fact that they're coming with a different language. In our community, oftentimes it's Spanish. So some of the areas that we focused on, so last year it was a kind of a year-long process. We've continued that this year, where we had 3-day trainings for teachers that actually also took place during the summer. Fast forward to this year, we have 5 central office professional development meetings where we've created a theme of PSYOP training to continue throughout the year, just to kind of have a thread and a connection in terms of the work we're doing. So just some of the areas that have been focused on, obviously language objectives, building background, and incorporating that into lesson planning. The area below TESO training, culturally responsive teaching, that came out of the work and really came out of the equity audit that was delivered to the district around this time last year. One of the recommendations within there was to partner with a professional development provider to really focus on some culturally responsive practices to ensure that we are kind of bridging learning, but also kind of valuing students' home cultures and making sure that we leverage that within the classroom. A couple of things that came out of the work related to the audit was the fact that we did have an equity summit this summer where we had our district equity team come together. We also kind of launched the culturally responsive teaching practices during our district-wide professional development day in October. And we've also followed that up in terms of kind of following a similar trend. We were trying to create some consistency and follow-up, and we're leveraging 4 faculty meetings at each of our schools that will occur throughout the year. I think most schools have had about 2 sessions thus far. On the right-hand side just talks a little bit about some of the professional development. This is obviously not an exhaustive list, but this just gives you a sense of some of what's happening and what's offered to our educators within the district. You can read those. I will highlight K2, Leader in Me. You may hear a little bit about that a little bit more in the presentation. The district has partnered with Leader in Me. It's kind of connected to the Covey work. And we wanted to kind of have a foundational approach at the K2 level where we could instill a sense of obviously leadership, responsibility, but a sense of shared purpose as we're kind of taking students through those early stages of the school community. And that's really been a significant part of the professional learning that's happened at the K2 level this year. I believe that our principals at the K2 level will talk about that some more as we get into the presentation. I'm going to transition to goal 3, which is community engagement. So I'll highlight a couple of the areas related to community engagement. I will talk briefly about, let me just actually share the goal statement for that particular goal was discussing us developing and fostering lasting district-wide relationships that connect people of diverse backgrounds through every academic stage of life. So I'll highlight a couple of areas. The first objective talked about universal preschool. So that's been something that the district's been exploring for the past few years, to be quite honest. So We realize that that serves as a great foundational start for all of our students within the school district, especially for our students who are coming from varied backgrounds. So I'll say 2 years ago, we were poised to at least launch, actually we wanted to open some spaces in each of our elementary schools. As we kind of went throughout the school year, we realized that we did not have the classroom space that we thought we would, which was a little disappointing, and we wanted to make sure that there was enough space to open where it was meaningful. Class sizes are capped at 15. We wanted to make sure that there was enough there for us to be able to invite an adequate or a decent amount of our 3 and 4 year olds in the community to attend. So we paused that, and I'm going to talk about that in facilities and finance shortly, because we also looked at some additional facility space in terms of adding on or even building. So I'll talk about that a little bit further. We are right now poised to, and we haven't abandoned that, but we are poised right now. Another option is to partner with local providers. We are seriously exploring and considering that at this point, at least opening the discussion to determine what that may mean as an opportunity for us to kind of launch universal preschool within the district. So that will, some more information about that will be forthcoming. Objective 3.2 talks about some summer bridge opportunities. I'll just highlight a couple here. We have our high school summer transition program, which has kind of grown, I'd say, during the past several years. This is designed for rising 9th grade students to transition their time from MHK to the high school. We realize that when students are transitioning from any level in the school district, it can be challenging. The middle school to high school transition can be a significant one. So we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to bring students in. We invited all freshmen this year. It's a week-long program, and really it's designed to prepare them to have a kind of a springboard to acclimate themselves with some academic readiness, but also familiarity with adults within the building, and just navigating the high school and getting a feel for that community. Higher up is a partnership with a nonprofit local organization. Their mission is to really create some meaningful summer jobs and internships for students. They do have a focus on underrepresented students as well. And they had about 30 students who participated this past summer. I think there were about 22 current students and about 8 graduates, but we found it to be an effective partnership that we'll continue to move forward with this year. Moving on, 3.3 talks about community resources just to prepare students for future interest. These are just some examples of what we have here, whether it's the Student Services Transition Fair. We have our counseling department that hosts several information sessions for students and families. I'll transition to 3.4 just to highlight some district-wide community events that kind of include families and all aspects of life. That list is obviously not exhaustive, but our PAC nights, we have about 4 PAC nights throughout the school year. Parent Advisory Committee, it's geared towards our multilingual learner population and their families, and in providing them with resources and really kind of acclimating them to our school district and some of the norms and supports that are available so families can navigate and support their children in their educational journey. This current school year, it was this year, right? Was it this year? Now I'm thinking like, where's Dave Rowe? Chris Cabay. Was it this year we did that, right? And the time just like it all blends together. So this year we partnered with Hugh CPAG, the Student Services Department partnered with Hugh CPAG to engage in a special education resource fair that invited several entities within the county and beyond that could provide resources to families, to parents of those students whose children are under the special education umbrella. The Student Services Department also had the opportunity that night to kind of share and highlight some of the role of a case manager and some other things connected to the Student Services Department. Thought it was a really successful evening, and it was a good sense of collaboration between Hugh CPAG and the school district. Lastly here, 3.5, I referenced this earlier. This is ensuring that the district decisions and operations reflect the diversity of the community through a commitment to educational equity, access, opportunities, and cultural responsiveness. So I just take you back to the equity audit. The equity audit had 5 domains or 5 pillars. Those are the 5 pillars there that kind of pushed out some next steps, I'd say, in terms of what the district should consider as it relates to addressing that particular standard. So as I referenced before, I'll talk about that 4th bullet, professional learning and personal growth. That was kind of connected to the work, as I shared before, regarding our partnership with TISO for culturally responsive teaching. These 5 areas are what's driving the District Equity Committee. So there'll be more to come as it relates to updates related to those 5 domains. Go forward, facilities and finance. So let me share the statement just to make sure. So goal statement. Create a safe and secure learning environment while remaining fiscally responsible. So, excuse me. So we had a facility assessment report in 2017 that was updated. Actually, it will be updated by the end of this school year. So in terms of, we're constantly reviewing the conditions of our facilities. Obviously, HVAC has become a significant area for us post-COVID, which kind of highlighted some of the aging HVAC within our schools, and we're continuing to strategically address that at each of our schools, the high school being the next school scheduled to engage in that process. Obviously, roofing is always an issue for us as it relates to wear and tear as we move forward. It says, you can see here, elementary school walks are scheduled for the end of next month. Early childhood education, that was connected to, so there's a relationship between goal 3, goal 4, as it relates to the early childhood component, and this is more so the facility needs that are associated with that. And as I shared before, we did partner with our architects, SSP, to engage in various options regarding space for early childhood centers. And I'll say it would be a variation of looking at our existing school spaces to determine how we could reconfigure classrooms, all the way up to, well, and then considering additions to spaces, and then all the way up to creating spaces for early childhood centers. So what I'd say, a number of our schools, especially on the Heightstown side of town, and actually, I'd say primarily Heightstown, we definitely notice limitations regarding the ability to expand existing facilities. We just don't have the footprint, in addition to some traffic congestion that we already have. What I will say is 2 schools emerged where we believe that there is space for us to create a standalone building, and that would be EMK and PLD, where we left things, EMK appeared to be probably the better option for a host of reasons. Now, there's still some things to take a look at as it relates to parking and so forth, but EMK seemed to be the space that we think would be most viable as it relates to having the space for the facility. Obviously, another option is to consider, we actually did this about 4 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, considering a facility that's not necessarily connected to one of our existing schools, and either taking a property, reconfiguring that property, or identifying some land to build an early childhood center. This is just giving you a visual of some of the requirements that we need to take into consideration when establishing a preschool environment. We're anticipating something to house 400 students, and it just talks about the square footage that's required and kind of lists what we have as it relates to our existing schools, just to give you a sense of what that is. These are just a layout of a first floor, second floor. Actually, this would be the design that we are considering for the space of the EMK if we were looking to move in that direction. Goal 5, culture, climate. So, goal statement: cultivate an inclusive and respectful climate for all stakeholders that inspires and values diversity of thought and opinion. Couple of objectives here. So this is focused on a sense of belonging, by increasing the level of participation in extracurriculars by 30%. So we're actually in the process of doing this as we speak. We're gauging interest of our middle school and high school students to determine kind of, to gather some feedback in terms of their needs, interests, what they are potentially seeking as it relates to an extracurricular experience. We're also in the process of just determining just some numbers, numbers of students participating currently, actually last school year, and also kind of breaking that down by, students who are participating, but also differentiating those students who may be participating in more than one activity. So we'll be in the process of gathering that data shortly, and I'll provide the board with an update as it relates to kind of student feedback and possible expansion of our offerings. Just as an aside, at the middle school and high school, our typical rhythm is to have student interest for a particular activity, and then we need to identify a staff member to serve as that advisor. That's generally, we prefer it when it's more organic, where students are kind of, having that felt need and that felt level of interest. And typically, it usually works itself out in terms of establishing a club. 5.2 just talks about shared code of conduct. You want to wait? Oh, you can ask it now. I was hoping we wait to the end, but go ahead. No, go ahead. You can ask it. No, that's fine. Go for it. No, go ahead. They do. So we're getting feedback on, not to say that, so what I would say, we'll ask you a question. It does. We are seeking that feedback. It's a great question. So for those of you that didn't hear it, it was, and when we're looking at extracurricular interest, are we also including athletics? The answer is yes. And then the follow-up question was, how would we address a situation where we may have high demand for a particular sport, like soccer at the high school, and not being able to accommodate all of those students because we only have a varsity, junior varsity team. So what would we do? We are exploring, and we have it at the middle school level for certain activities, but we have talked about creating an intramural structure for those students who would not be, who wouldn't make those teams but still have a significant interest. We would like to create something that is, still has a competitive feel to it, so there's some buy-in as it relates to it being something that students can participate in. But yes, we definitely want to make sure that if you've got 60 students that did not make one of those teams, we don't want to let that go. And how do we capture that? We believe that a competitive intramural structure would at least address some of those needs. That's okay. Sorry. All right. So the shared code of conduct. We have code of conducts at each of our school levels. We are in the process of looking to review, as we do annually. We'll be meeting with the assistant principals next month to engage in that process, and then we want to kind of take what the review entails, take that back to school level, seek feedback from teachers, students, and families as we begin to reshape and determine direction for the upcoming year. This is very specific language in here, and I'll say that this was generated from the strategic planning process because at that point in time, I think that's what we knew at that moment. In the Panorama Survey, which is more of an SEL-related survey, was something that we talked about administering twice a year. As we were going through that process last year, we also discovered that the New Jersey School Climate Improvement Survey also emerged, and we thought that that was more of a gathering perspectives on how students, staff, and families feel as it relates to their experience, their sense of belonging within the schools that they're connected to. So we are poised actually for students in grades 3 through 12 to administer the New Jersey School Climate Survey, and that will be taken by students. We'll also be having our staff participate in that, as well as families. So parents will be getting that communication within the next couple of weeks regarding that, and we'll create a window of time for the survey to be completed. It's not a very long survey. We believe that domains connected to the survey are relevant. This is kind of a partnership between the New Jersey Department of Education and Rutgers University, so we think it's a worthwhile piece of data for us to gather. 5.4 just talks about celebrating varied cultures within the East Windsor Regional School District. And this is kind of hearkening back to what I shared before as it relates to our partnership with TISO and engaging in our culturally responsive professional development experiences. 5.5, so this talks about cultivating social emotional skills. I just highlighted just the fact that and we go beyond that, but at the elementary level, our counselors prepare monthly lessons that kind of focus on a specific area under the CASEL standards for SEL, and they push in to deliver those lessons. Just a couple of next steps here. Obviously, we're going to review the interest survey and the feedback. We'll have an opportunity to engage in what we think the code of student conduct needs to look like as it relates to differentiated levels and some consistency from one school level to the next. We will review our survey feedback as it relates to Panorama and our New Jersey school climate. And we'll have a continuous kind of feedback loop regarding the professional development connected to culture responsive teaching strategies. And with that said, I'm going to transition to school level updates, beginning with our K2. And we'll have our principals, Ms. Folks and Mrs. Glakowski.
Thank you. All right. Okay, you could advance the slide, please. Thank you. All right, for K2 in reading, we have 2 new initiatives that we have been working on. Heggerty is one of them. That's in our kindergarten classrooms, and it's focused on phonemic awareness. We've had trainings for implementation. We've done walkthroughs, seeing the program in action, and we've also had professional learning communities that have been looking at student progress in the program. As Mr. Daniels mentioned, we have the Leader in Me program in our K-2 schools. This is our first year of implementation, and one of the components is a data binder. So that's a place where students can set goals, track their progress, and reflect on their learning. So we do have some early adopters who have been doing that. To address the achievement gap, we've implemented, and again, we spoke about this as a district initiative, but at the K2 building, we've been supporting the SIOP model, really to support all our learners through the different trainings. We've had central office meetings and also some summer PD for those that could make it. In addition to that, we have our Orton Gillingham training, which we've been using with our special education students to support a multi-sensory approach to learning to read. For our professional development plan, again, some of this was discussed earlier, but at the K2 schools, we are working on the Leader in Me. So those trainings have been happening. They started in August with a Lighthouse team, which is a leadership group of staff members that came together to set the stage for the school year. So that started in the summer, and then we've had full day trainings, and that was at the first in the 2 in-service days in the beginning of the year. In addition to that, our PLC meetings are focused on this training, and most recently we had a coaching visit from the Leader in Me, who came in and provided us guidance and feedback on our process.
Hi, so I get to start with SIOP, which you've now heard about, I think, 3 times, but that's okay. So, as has been said, we've adopted the SIOP model as a way to meet the academic needs of multilingual learners. So during the summer, there was optional PD provided for staff members and administrators, and those sessions were really well attended. And then throughout the school year, as has been said, all of our content meetings have been focused on training staff on the SIOP model. So we've had 3 trainings so far on language objectives, building background, and then building background again. And then we will be moving on to lesson planning in my building. It's next week. And yeah, so, sorry about that. Writing initiative. At the K2 level, we decided to really focus this year all of our attention on one component of ELA instruction, which is writing. So during the summer, there was an essential PD, as well as other optional PDs that focused on writers' workshop structures and approaches. And throughout the school year, the teachers have been participating in a book study of the book, How to Become a Better Writing Teacher. And then all of our supervisor and content meetings this year have been focused on that text. Okay, equity. I get to talk about TISO again too. So the district hosts PAC meetings for Spanish-speaking families throughout the year, and our K2 teachers share that information about those meetings with their families, and some have even attended those PAC nights to show the support. We have teachers and administrators at the K2 level who are members of the district equity team and participate in those meetings, and also participated in the summer summit. Also, as previously mentioned, our staff is implementing the SIOP model to make content more accessible for our multilingual learners. We're also building staff capacity to deliver culturally responsive and equitable instruction to our students through our trainings with TISO. The 2 K2 schools have had 1 training so far, and we will have 3 more by the end of the school year. And then SEL is really the heart of all we do in K2. Our schedule is designed to include dedicated time for SEL instruction, where the classroom teachers will facilitate daily lessons focused on Leader in Me and the 7 Habits. We've also made sure that the language and strategies from Leader in Me program are embedded in all of our content areas, so that, as I like to say, we're all speaking the same language to our students. And we're happy to report that our students are starting to really exhibit those 7 habits. So we're seeing success.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jasmine Allen, the proud principal of Perry L. Drew Elementary School, and I'm going to start us off with our grades 3 to 5 update. So our first slide just goes into where we're at with our action steps. We are going to be talking about the goals on the side, and it just really details where we were at in that process. So we're thinking about exploring, that's more so a needs assessment. You can see that for all of our goals, we are no longer on that stage. Think about planning. It's about developing a clear roadmap with objectives, timelines, and responsibilities. Once we get to that create stage, we want to be able to design and build tools and resources to achieve our objectives. Thinking about implementing, we want to put that plan into action. Once we get to that monitoring stage, we are tracking our progress to ensure that initiatives are being executed as planned. Once we get to our analyzing phase, we're examining data and trends. Once we evaluate, we want to assess the overall impact and see if the objectives are met and if we need to monitor and adjust. So my dear colleagues will be speaking on many of the steps we've taken, and based upon those steps, we are in different phases within our action plan. I'm going to pass it off to Kevin Weiss.
That's me. I apologize for giving you my back. It's not intentional. So foundational literacy, just a couple things. So this past year, we used our benchmarking data, like STAR data, as well as teacher referrals, to assess our rising 3rd graders to help us identify potential needs and services. We created a decision tree based on this data so that we could efficiently cluster our students into targeted intervention groups, making us more efficient and supportive for these students. At the same time, we're strengthening our Tier 1 practices in all of our classrooms. We're emphasizing language conventions to build essential skills for all our learners. We've also added in specific classrooms in grade 3, classes that are focused a little bit more heavily on phonics instruction to help make sure that all of our students have the foundational skills necessary to meet grade level expectations. We've also been using assessment tools like DIBBLES to help guide our understanding of the foundational gaps that are still presenting themselves in our students in grades 3 through 5. These assessments are allowing us to better progress monitor and see the effectiveness of our intervention programs.
When we look at some of our achievement gaps, one of the things that we're doing is having data review meetings with our teachers in February to review our growth and progress of our students between September and January, and to figure out ways we could better support them and get the support that teachers need, whether it's professional development or tools. Some of the practices that we're using to help with our achievement gap, we could also talk about Orton Gillingham as well, where some of our teachers are receiving aligned with the science of reading instruction to best practices to help our students with some of these foundational literacy needs. We're also working on a cycle of growth in writing. This model allows our teachers to practice not only their writing instruction, but the way we confer with our students to help them glow and grow. We also are taking part in the central office meetings for SIOP, which we're working to embed language objectives as well as background information. So that are some of our highlights in 3.5. Thank
you. Okay, so now you're going to hear a little bit more of what is happening also at the K2 level, but for professional development, you know, at the end of the year, we confer about summative evaluation data, some of the trends we see. That's where Kevin's writing professional development came from, because we saw a need for teachers to become better at teaching writing. We also use summative evaluation data in addition to what Kevin does, but within our SCIP committee, and some of the offerings that we have through our SCIP committee are on classroom management, managing student behaviors, also ideas for teachers to create groupings for PLB. The SIOP is also a part of our central office professional development. We have new teacher roundtables, and that professional development is specifically for things that our new teachers might need more support on. During the October 14th PD Day, we also offered some professional development that teachers were asking for. So our professional development at the 3-5 level, it's really dependent. It could be dependent on the teacher's discipline. What in 5th grade, it could be math or language arts or science or social studies based on what they teach. We have preschool teachers that get professional development specific for them, special ed teachers that get professional development specific for them, which is Orton Gillingham most recently. For social and emotional learning, we do have monthly counseling lessons that are based on SEL. We are focusing on virtues this year and what the virtues mean, and giving students some tools and some strategies to incorporate those virtues into their daily school experiences, but also for when they leave school, outside of the school day, how they can live with that virtue. We also each have, at PLD and at GNR, we have core values that are connected to CASEL, and our core values are celebrated in many different ways, and that's really just to give students an opportunity to embrace our core values, which are based on really self-regulation and showing up as a good person. So it's really in a more organic way for social and emotional learning to be incorporated. And for our next step, we are going to be administering the school climate improvement survey. For equity, we also participate in the district PAC nights. We participate in the district equity team. Our teachers have had some TESO training during staff meetings, and we are having a FAST event coming up in March at our school, which is specifically for our bilingual students.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sam Felicetta. I will be representing the 6-8 team. And when I talk about the 6-8 team, I'm talking about both the supervisors and the building-based administrators that we work together really closely to provide all those things that teachers and the community at MHK needs. So first, I'm going to speak to student-centered learning. So this first 1.4, it speaks to providing students with the necessary skills for post-secondary and education and work-related opportunities. So a couple of things is that we make sure that we're doing professional development on the new standards so that our staff know exactly what's part of the curriculum and how to teach it, and make sure that they adapt to the shifts in those standards. We also pay very close attention to assessment tools that we can use to be able to assess student learning. So we want to make sure that we're rigorous in challenging our advanced students and our students that need exposure to more rigor, and that we're also supporting our students that need more foundational and foundational works. For example, we have our Title I program. We did our phase 1 of that program. We're just finishing up with our STAR testing, the second round. And so based on the data that we get back from that, we're then going to make sure that we target the right students to bring in to make sure that we're giving them what they need. I want to highlight and say thank you. We have additional math teachers this year at MHK, and so we've been able to reduce class sizes, specifically in our math course 1, 2, and 3 courses. Math is obviously a building goal, and I know it's a district goal, specifically at the 6-8 level, and so having those additional teachers has been able to reduce those class sizes. We also increased our ELA. We added an additional teacher in the 8th grade, so again, we were able to reduce those class sizes and then use that to be able to really hone in on instruction, personalized instruction for students. Staying with student-centered learning, 1.6, addressing the achievement gap. You've heard some other people talk about some things, so I'll make sure I'm a little specific to 6-8. I just referenced the STAR testing, which we make sure that we're reviewing at department meetings at the 6-8 level. The supervisors are able to work with their content area and really dive into those assessments to say, what does that mean for us in math? What does that mean for us in science? What does that mean for us in you name the content area? Also, the portfolio and benchmark assessments. So there are quarterly reviews, and those are also done in grade level meetings. And the model works really well where the supervisor gets to get right in there with the teachers that are teaching that content area to say, what do we need to do and how can we best support our students? It talks about Title I again, which I just referenced. This summer, I know you heard Orton Gillingham, we too. I think this is a nice, it shows how we have continuity across the district. So we had 5 teachers that were trained this summer, and they are using and integrating those strategies into our LLD and MD classes. Our OCR classes continue to use their awards, but I think it really shows you a nice continuity from what's happening at the K-5, and then it's carrying into the 6-8. This year we have a new exciting room. It's called our sensory room. So for a myriad of reasons, there might be students that need to take a break during the day or get a reward during the day. And a sensory room is a really wonderful opportunity for these kids to work with their CST member, their counselor, perhaps the AP, for whatever their targeted reason is. So for each student, it might be different. And so that room has when I say sensory, I mean it's got all sorts of colors and tactile, but the idea is that students are able to go in there. We're tracking sort of why they're in there, how we needed to best work with them, so that we can support them in their education setting, depending on what their education setting is. Okay, and then you heard about SIOP. We too are doing that in our central office meeting, so I won't go back to that. Okay, staffing. I wanted to touch on the fact that our supervisors pre-plan the staffing for the summer, and we do so much support, and the supervisors run so many workshops over the summer so that teachers have the tools they need prior to the school year starting. They will rerun those workshops because some, teachers work and staff work over the summer, so they might not be available. But I wanted to just give a shout out to the supervisors because they really do a lot of work there. And then I know you heard at 3.5, they're also leveraging the SCIP. The SCIP at the middle school meets monthly to talk about, we survey the staff pretty frequently to find out what they think their needs are. And then we also look at trends, and we sort of analyze what's happening through our evaluation process to then determine, hey, we're noticing first-year teachers need classroom management, or our third and fourth year teachers need more small group instruction training. So we're also leveraging. And last year, we added on, there need to be a certain number of administrators and teachers, but we made sure to have both building-based administration and a supervisor as part of the committee. And I think that's really enhanced the work that the SCIP has done. Community engagement. So we too participate in the district equity team and have our subcommittee. We too have had the TSO trainings, and the staff has found those to be very beneficial. And we too participate in the PAC nights. The only other item I would like to highlight is that at CREPS, there is a team of teachers that get together, and we do our own Hispanic family night to support our Hispanic families in the building. Climate and culture, so 5.5. This year, we tend to do book studies, and this year, in order to support climate and culture in the building and have a common language, we did a book study on what great teachers do differently. We did that predominantly with our 1 through 4 teaching staff, and then with our 5+ teaching staff, we actually focused on some different professional development areas. But what great teachers do differently does focus on classroom management and how to maximize instructional time and what strategies they can use. Across all contents, we did focus on goal setting with students. Our school climate and safety team in October, we did what kind of kind are you? And we had a bulletin board where students could say, I'm, football team kind, or we're admin team kind. And so it was a really nice way to try to launch off the week of respect. We have an SEL subcommittee that meets monthly, and then we roll out to each department, does one monthly SEL lesson, so that SEL isn't standalone, but every department offers it over the course of the year. And this year's theme is Character Matters, Build Yours. So there's a team of teachers that gets together, and they develop those lessons for the entire staff to then deliver. You've heard about the climate survey. We'll be doing that as well. And then another big thank you from the MHK community. We have 2 school counselors per grade level this year. The model is working beautifully. They are able to interface with students more frequently. We are able to make sure that we're proactive and not just reactive. And so they are, and I listed just some of the things that they're specializing in making sure that we're following up on, but making sure we're tracking attendance and how are students that were retained doing. We have some safety screenings that we're doing. Who's keeping track and making sure that we're really paying attention to each student individually. So I cannot thank you enough as the board because it's made a huge difference in CREPS this year. So that is our CREPS update.
Okay, the high school gets to go last. So basically what everybody said, we're doing the same things at the high school, so thank you very much. But I will say, on a serious note, some of the themes that you've heard from even down to K2 has been embedded in the high school, and there's been a lot of consistency in how we've gone about planning the year. Again, I'll just kind of echo the role. We, at the high school, we call our 9-12 team our cabinet with the supervisors. There's a lot of consistency between what happens, especially with CREPS in the high school. So I'll kind of walk through the highlights of some of our programs that are a little bit unique to the high school, because a lot of what you've heard tonight, you will see at the high school that you heard in the other grades. One unique high school program is our College and Career Readiness Program, CCR. You've probably heard of that. We've offered that to our 9th grade and 10th grade students that need support. We look at our grades, we look at attendance, we look at state testing scores, STAR testing indicators. We also identified transfer students, conduct reports, and the CCR students was created to prepare students for future opportunities, but also to be successful at high school. And some of the skills there were the needs for testing skills. And we've kind of moved into that second phase, which will be to help those students that will be needing the high stakes testing in the spring. But more importantly, at times we also give them the skills to be successful in their classes in ELA, math, multilingual support. We also have really looked at the idea of having teachers also mentor students. So we have seen this year with a sophomore cohort who in the beginning last year with the freshmen was hard to get them. This sophomore group wants to come after school. So that's kind of refreshing that this kind of been a program that we organically wanted to create. We at the high school have done exactly what everybody else, K-12. The PSYOP training has been super dedicated. We've been really consistent with it. At the high school, every member of the administrative team is given a different group for each session, and we rotate through the building, and we have that multiple disciplines. And that's been really refreshing to have our staff work with other departments. The high school is a large faculty, so we have people that may be on one side of the room sharing what works with PSYOP, getting to know your students, and that's been really successful. And we're exactly where everybody else has been building background knowledge. We will be entering the fourth session, and that's kind of lesson planning, which will go back to the departments. It really also has been, for myself, kind of put me in the role of having to really be in touch with what's going on in planning and lesson development, and it's been kind of refreshing from all of us. We also, each of the assistant principals, work closely with content supervisors, making sure that we bring what's happening in the departments back to our cabinet meetings. We've used the multi-measure evaluation tools. We've had those conversations also. In 1.16, some major activities, and this is really significant. This year at the high school, this is something unique. We've identified multilingual learners who, what we kind of call is potentially may age out, and we have tried to work with our multilingual program with Sandy Small's office, identifying those students and looking at what they need to get them back on track to not age out so they can get through school. And it's been really very rewarding looking at some students who, no fault of their own, just because they came to us and they missed certain classes, we've been able to get them caught up, and they've developed really good relationships. They're working with different staff members. And that's kind of not necessarily a senior. It could be a sophomore who, again, no fault of themselves. They may not have taken courses in their native country that just put them behind, and we're going to get them caught up so we don't lose those students and we get them to graduate on time. Again, we look at that as almost a mentorship program. And again, just like Sam spoke about, we're in the phase of using STAR data. We'll start that this week. So that's one thing. 3.23, major activities. The PD sessions were very consistent what you saw earlier. We spent a lot of time on year 1 and year 2 cohort of teachers, looking at trends that they need, classroom management, and then really I've been kind of pleased that we've been tying back background knowledge. So we bring PSYOP back into the PD for our students, and then we're looking for that in walkthroughs, language, content, objectives. We've been doing that in the PSYOP training, and then that's something we've started to say, this is what we expect to see when we do our walkthroughs. That's some of the professional development we worked on. And we've also started at times looking at professional development, the building that are needed in a high school, how to plan for a trip, how to plan for a fundraiser. So we've kind of made building-based PD also. In 4.36, some major activities. Again, this is very consistent with what you heard all evening. The Equity Summit, TESOL, we've just finished on Tuesday. We finished our 3rd session. And it's tough. Sometimes in a high school faculty meeting session at the end of the day, it's hard to get staff to participate. I would welcome anybody to come in. Our staff really welcomed it. The facilitators got them involved in a way that made them reflect on some of the things that they do. Simply, even like how do you greet a student, and from a head nod to a bow, which was pretty interesting. And then teachers kind of reflected on what they felt comfortable doing. That's just one example. So we'll continue that work. And we're going to look at really having the equity team at the building level. That's the next step. I think this is a really significant one for the high school. We look at social and emotional skills that are essential for academic success. I think this is really significant when you look at SEL. We do that on a pretty regular basis. We have activity periods. We'll have an activity period coming up trying to identify through our surveys. Again, the climate survey, we'll be doing that. We've put the monitors that you see in the board meeting, we have that up during lunches now, so we're really advertising. We're making it, our students are visual learners. They see everything that's being offered at a pretty regular basis. And the question, Ms. Lewis brought up the co-curricular interest survey about what students want. We did kind of a soft rollout of that. We rolled that out right prior to winter break. We're going to re-administer the same survey. We wanted to kind of see what interest we got. We got a significant number of students. We asked questions with the co-curricular. You know, what are some things that may prohibit you from doing a club or activity? So they gave us really good feedback on what kind of stops them. What are some of the things that they're looking for? Some of the different areas of, you know, what are you interested in? What are we missing? And then a general open-ended question like, what could we do that would help you to be better? So one of the things was a little bit more at the high school, an athletic co-curricular availability, sort of a co-ed piece. So we kind of anticipated that, and that was one of the trends that was pretty consistent, and we're going to look at doing something along those lines in the fall. We also, again, we were looking at the partnerships with the clubs and activities Mr. Daniels talked about before. Since I've been here for 12 years, no administrator and no adult has really ever had to start a club or activity. Every club or activity has been generated by a student, and then we just try to foster that and get that across the finish line. So we have the non-paid then over a period of time based on interest could actually be a paid co-curricular, and right now we have like 70 plus, and the board has always been supportive in the clubs and activities. And again, that's driven by students, and we have, one of the things that we've done this year is Mr. Daniels and I do focus groups with our students. We've kind of taken the focus groups ideas back to our town halls, and we'll be doing a town hall in a week, and we're going to have that kind of open-ended about like what are some of the other things that you would like to see at the high school, kind of a way to give us some feedback in a safe way, not just standing up that way. And we started to get some surveys for that. We did and sometimes you hear from the student council, the survey box. We're doing that back in town halls, which will be a little bit smaller and definitely grade-based. So we'll look at some of the other areas that we could look at, you know, kind of have kids have an interest. And again, we think that if they buy in for some of those other areas around the building, that'll obviously rub off and help them with their academic success. And just like on one club that doesn't get enough, and I was just thinking about when I saw about the STEM, you know, STEM starts in the elementary school, but we have our ACE, which are our architecture construction club, which is a tremendous club that just taps into the skills that they probably start learning in STEM, but now is really an extension of STEM as a co-curricular. And the students in there go off to engineering careers. They get scholarships. And again, that's a co-curricular, but that has as much power as any course that we offer here at the high school. So that's just a little bit of the overview of the high school.
Okay, so that was a lot. That was a quick review. So if the board wants to return to the dais and we can just take some questions. Obviously, all the questions don't need to be addressed tonight, but if there are any initial questions while it's fresh on your minds, and the people who are here to answer them are here, that would be helpful. Would you say? Yeah, you can shut it down. Thank you. So any questions? Well, let me begin with this. Let me just thank my colleagues who presented tonight. I appreciate them kind of taking the time just to highlight some of the areas that are connected to our goals and bringing it as close as possible to home. What I will say is, based on tonight by design, there were some, I'd say, common themes and threads, and I was pleased to see there's an element of consistency, K-12, as it relates to what our teachers are connected to, and some of the experiences that we're kind of identifying for our students. So although there was some redundancy, I think the redundancy, in my opinion, speaks to a strategic approach to the work we're doing. So I want to thank my colleagues who presented tonight, but also who are part of the work that did not present, and who work diligently each day on behalf of students and supporting our staff. So, any initial questions or comments?
Mark, I have quite a few, but I think I might save them till next time. But one that's I would like to point out or question so we can maybe talk about it more is on Kevin's slide under the foundational literacy box, a lot of the things that we're doing there seem like that should be in K through 2.
It is happening in K2.
It's happening.
The reason is evident in 3.5 is because, you know, historically 3.5 has been kind of a reading to learn window. Obviously post-COVID, even pre-COVID to some extent, but post-COVID we noticed that students were kind of, you know, entering that third grade space at different levels. So it kind of necessitated the need for us to be more intentional regarding some of those foundational reading approaches at the 3.5 level.
Okay, so this is for students that still need that little extra help. Okay. I think I'm going to just save mine for next time. So Paul, if we can add this to old business, the strategic update.
All right.
Thank you. Anybody
Anyone
else
else?
questions?
Okay.
I actually just have one question, because, so we talked about the, developing and looking at the student code of conduct. That part of the strategic plan talks about all stakeholders. Is there a plan for folks to get together from, different areas, teachers, administrators, to talk about a shared vision for shared values and, communication style, and talking about, how, like a shared idea of how we relate to one another, as a district?
So, yes. So the first part of the process will be that we'll be engaging the assistant principals, who tend to be kind of like the holders of the code of student conduct. And then we'll kind of engage in a review of what we currently have, and then explore some areas that we think we need to either clarify or even bring up to speed. But also making sure that we are cognizant of the things that are common across all grade levels, recognizing that there needs to be some differentiated approaches based on students' developmental levels. And then the goal is to take some of that feedback, because it's going to be an ongoing issue where we want to engage our teachers, and I'll just use that word broadly, but folks who are working closely with our students, and then engage families, whether we're doing that en masse through survey feedback or small pockets of feedback, whether it's through PTOs or other parent groups, and then also making sure we're engaging our students in that process as it relates to making sure that they have an understanding, because sometimes as a student you may not fully understand why that particular consequence may even be in place as it relates to the code of student conduct. So for us, that the code of the student conduct is really it should represent kind of I'd say like student rights and responsibilities within a school community, right? So it's almost like every student should have the right to be able to, exit their front door in the morning, walk on that bus, and be treated with a sense of respect as they come into the school. But we also want to make sure that there's an element of responsibility that comes along with being a member of a school community, and try to just move it away from just being viewed as kind of like the ways you can get in trouble, right? And I think we need to kind of, even though we need to be transparent about that, I think that the larger issue is making sure students understand why we need to kind of, when we've got a school, for example, like the high school, 1,600, teenagers, why we need to have some agreements in terms of how we operate within that community, so we can all kind of achieve our best as a community. So it will start with our assistant principals, and then we're going to kind of permeate that throughout all stakeholders within the community. We're also going to marry some of that with the feedback that we hope to receive from the school climate improvement survey as well, which taps into some of those areas as well in terms of how students are feeling as members of school communities.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for right now?
Quick question on the climate survey. Sure. The NJ Department of Education is conducting a statewide survey. Could you just have a few words about that? Is it every student, every school, or
no? So
sample of students?
Are you referring to the survey that we referenced during the presentation?
Yes, yes.
So no, so this is an optional survey. You don't have to do it. But it is supported by the Department of Education. It's a collaboration between the department and Rutgers University. And this is kind of it used to be the school climate survey where once upon a time, for those of you that have been around for a while, there were certain schools that needed to do it. We actually had to do it at one point. That's no longer the case for us, but it's one of those things that has kind of been revamped and resurfaced, and it's really focused around really the same premise in terms of getting perspectives, both student, parents, and staff members, their viewpoints in terms of what they are sensing, experiencing, feeling as it relates to being members of a school community. So it's not a have to. It's something that I think should have some value as it relates to the domains associated with it. And we'll gather the feedback and we'll determine, what we think is affirming, what are some areas where we think we need to grow or even consider doing differently. But I think it's refreshing to have a tool that enables us to get a pulse in terms of, I think, it's critical in terms of students and their learning. If students are not feeling a sense of connection, a sense of welcome as they're entering school spaces, naturally that impacts their educational experience. So that's where we are. It's not a have to.
And just a follow-up, so I guess the point being, since it's statewide, there will be some comparison data? We'll be able to see results and compare?
Yeah.
Not specifically to other schools, but
some trends.
Just statewide average.
There should be some trending associated with it, but I'll gather some more feedback about that. So to answer your question about, it is a consistent tool that districts may choose to use. I believe that the department is capturing some of that to get those trends across the state. All right. Any other questions?
I have one more, Mark. So related to the high school and Dennis's presentation on soft skills, the testing skills weren't going into that second phase. I know the first phase was a very select set of students. Can you go over again how we're selecting students for the second phase, what that looks moving forward into the next phase, and if parents are interested in their students receiving that training,
College and
can
career
they request?
readiness?
Yes.
You're referring to college and career
yeah,
readiness, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
specifically
Mr.
to
Vincent,
testing
do you want
skills.
to speak to that in terms of selection process? I don't want to speak falsely. You all right? Yeah, go for it.
So right now, the students that we have kind of in our cohort are already captured in that cohort, and then we'll look to see and identify if we need to expand that, but that cohort has already been kind of in existence based on all those criteria that I kind of said about in the beginning.
Okay, so it's the same students moving forward, not adding additional students.
Right now, it's the students that have already been working in the first phase of that, yes.
Okay.
And then what we could do is we just have to be mindful that they meet the criteria that they go in there. So we'll look at that as second semester, and then obviously last year we had the freshmen that then we looked at how they were, if they carried over, if they exited the program. So it's kind of like a freshman, sophomore cohort right now.
Are we looking to expand that, or are we also looking at any students who are in need or at-risk students that may be added to or a separate program running in tandem?
So I should have said it. So what we're doing right now also is the benefit of the high school, because we have 4 assistant principals, and then in those teams of counselors, they're also identifying let's say at-risk students for that, and they're creating academic plans in the grade levels for identifying potentially INRS or being referred, or just support, a support plan if they, for example, if they struggled in 2 classes or more, the assistant principal with the counseling team has made a support plan also. So it's a different way to catch those students, not necessarily in the CCR. A lot of times they're the same student, but we're trying to have multiple ways to identify and then support them in tutoring sessions, and then after school resource room is still available. So other people are also flagging them also.
Okay, that's great. So if a parent was interested, they could contact their AP, grade
Yeah,
level
absolutely.
AP, or their counselor.
I would, and I'm hoping that's what, as the APs now, second marking periods wrapping up, they're identifying those students, and they'll be reaching out, especially now that we're halfway. Parent conferences will be coming up, but absolutely, if a parent identify their child as struggling, I would absolutely go with the grade level team first, and then we could find what resources we could then support them with. Then there's a whole host of, if they're a classified student, multi-language student, so we could find a way to support something. So it doesn't necessarily have to necessarily be in the CCR, but there's definitely something there for them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Tina, what I'll do, I'll provide the board with the criteria that we're using for college and career readiness, so you get a sense of what the cohort reflects. All right?
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm scared to ask that question. I'm scared to ask that, but any other questions in closing? All right, like I said, we'll revisit it. If you have any questions beyond tonight, of course, we can get those addressed. All right? Thank you.
Okay, we'll let Mark get settled, and we're going to move on to our superintendent's report. Gets to take a moment.
Okay, I'll try to keep it rather succinct here. Okay. So I'll just kind of reiterate, just acknowledging our student performances tonight. I do want to thank our middle school and high school music teachers for their work and their dedication with our students. I also would like to thank and congratulate our student artists tonight. I think it was great to be able to kind of put a face with a name regarding those students who are responsible for that amazing artwork on the calendar. Quick shout out to, in the spirit of winter concerts, as we just concluded them, I just want to congratulate the GNR and PLD students and music teachers. Great concerts last week and the week before. Tonight, if you stop by the usual board meeting venue, cafeteria R, there are quite a few folks in attendance to the Written Out Loud celebration. We had a celebration of almost 400 student authors tonight who've written almost 100 books during the recent cycle of Written Out Loud. So I think Written Out Loud's probably been, we've been partnering with them for what, about 4 years now, Sandy? About 4 years. So that definitely is, I was joking earlier that I needed to go there just to kind of replenish my energy. The energy in the room was contagious. So I do appreciate the partnership, and I love the fact that we're using creativity, writing, inspiration, and also collaboration with our students who are co-authoring books. It really has impact. I do just want to touch on, the recent change, recent update to the federal immigration enforcement practices that have been communicated in the past week, excuse me, with the new federal administration. So I'll just share that as a school district, we've followed guidance from the Department of Education as well as consultation with the board's attorney, and we do have an established protocol in place. Hopefully that won't need to be implemented, right? But I think we do need to be prepared just in case, based on our community. And obviously, I'll preface things with stating that, we follow the law. We're obligated to do that, but we're also obligated to uphold and preserve the rights of our students. I also, as superintendent, feel like I have an obligation to minimize disruption to our learning community. So, if there is a circumstance where we have a visit from immigration agents, our school staff and administration is aware of the protocol to adhere to. And we'll also be sharing some resources with our families as we move forward as well. Our immigrant families regarding resources and their rights within the community. I'm not going to mention the school climate survey. I was going to, but I don't need to tonight. So I think based on where we are, I'll conclude my report at this time. and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. We'll now open up for our first opportunity for board member comments. Anyone from the board have any comments?
I'd just like to echo the appreciation for the student performers that came through tonight. It's always fantastic to see those programs in action, and it's nice to get the special showcase tonight. So thanks for putting that together.
Anyone else? Okay, there being none, we have our first opportunity for public comments. Any members of the public wish to comment? Yes, back in the back? Yeah, can you come up to the podium? And there is a register there where you could put your name and address. Thank you. And just a reminder for time limits, every member of the public has 3 minutes to speak, and we have a 20-minute session. If we ever feel the need to go beyond that, the board can make a motion to do so. At the microphone over there. And at the bottom, there's a little button that has like a person talking, and you just hit that button, it'll turn the red light on.
There we go. Okay. So on January, I'm Lisa Perez. Mackenzie Perez goes to GNR, my daughter. She's in 4th grade.
Can you state your address as well, please?
662 Windsor Commons. I received a notice for a HIB that was denied for inappropriate comments for Mackenzie. Excuse me. I have been in close contact with Miss Emerson as of recently, December, but starting back dated January 26th of 24, Mackenzie was kicked in the private area and it was not documented. I want to know, as the board, what do you guys consider and what do you document on file, even though they're young kids, which is an HIB and what is not? Recently, she got slapped in the rear end by a boy one day. There's no document, no investigation has been opened. And the next day, she did it again. I'm going to bring her to school. I say, Mackenzie, everything's okay? She said, Mom, you didn't hear what happened? She says, no, I said, no, I didn't hear anything that happened. She said, well, he hit me in the butt and I was running away from him. So I go into the office and I see it on video myself. Nothing is documented. I go to the police station on 2 different occasions to make a sexual harassment report. At this point, it's concerning because Mackenzie does not want to go to school. I've tried medication for her. I've tried 504 plan we just implemented. We moved here 4 years ago from Ocean County, from Toms River School District, and I never had these issues. So I need to know, what do you guys consider an HIB? What do you guys document? The end of June, I did receive, saying she's looking at suicidal stuff on her Chromebook. This isn't documented. I just received this in an email and that's it, or they printed it out for me this year.
30 seconds, please.
So if you guys can just answer that, what you guys consider an HIB, I'd appreciate it.
Well, let me just begin by obviously I don't want anyone's child to be experiencing anything that is less than pleasant or anything a parent believes may be falling under the harassment, intimidation, or bullying umbrella. We just spent some time talking about the Code of Student Conduct during the presentation. So I think, and I'm going to say this respectfully, and I appreciate you being here tonight. I'm going to ask that I follow up with you because I think, I want to make sure that we're being discreet regarding your daughter's, business experiences. Obviously, you feel dissatisfied regarding how you think your child is being treated at the school and whether or not it's being documented. So I'll give you a call tomorrow and we can find some time to talk and I think we should be able to find some solutions and a way forward as it relates to her well-being and how you are trusting the school. I need you to be able to trust the school as we move forward. The fact that you're here tonight, obviously there's some doubt there, and I want to make sure that we work together to repair that, okay? So I will definitely contact you tomorrow. I have your name, Lisa Perez. Mackenzie is your daughter's name, right? I'll call you tomorrow, okay? All right.
Ms. Perez, can you please sign the sign-in sheet? Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to comment? There being none, we are going to move to executive session. This time it really will be rather short. 5 or 10 minutes, probably 10 minutes, give us 15, but we may not even be that long. Thank you. We now return to regular session. Up next is item 7, old business. Does anyone have any questions under old business, even though nothing's listed there? Committee meetings.
Tina, I had a question for you. Oh my God, this is so. Tina?
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you something. We had this strategic meeting, how they're doing the new training and using a different approach of learning. I know in old business we had the stats from last year where we had some concerns about the test score. We'll be getting an update once the assessments are done, or we have to wait until the next cycle?
Mark said he'll get back to us on the date.
We'll provide an update in some form or fashion, whether I'll share it with the board or we'll do a quick update during a meeting, but you'll have something during the winter, okay?
Thank you.
So regarding the policy committee, we were sort of undertaking a, kind of an overhaul of all of the policies. And I wondered if the folks who were on the policy committee wanted to talk about having, so it looks like we're going back to the less frequent meetings. I think for a while, the policy committee might want to meet monthly. So I was just putting it out there to see what everybody thought and then sort of discuss how we're going to complete the project that we started.
Thanks, Jenna. Any other questions? Okay, if not, we'll move on to our second opportunity for board member comments. Anyone have any comments?
To follow up on Jenna's point, I think the questions came up before I came back on the board. Questions came up about a policy that was approved that requires a better definition of the subcommittee's role. Was that? I haven't actually read it. I should have read it first. I'm sorry.
No, the board just approved the new policy regarding committees not that long ago, Bob. So if you look at it, it's pretty self-explanatory. In reference to Jenna's point, we did engage in a policy audit via Strauss-Esme, and the policy committee was meeting more frequently than the typical rhythm to go through updating, actually at least reviewing policies. Some of them we chose not to update, but there's a rhythm of review. So in terms of Jenna, I'm comfortable with us, resuming that. I just kind of put out the dates, the proposed dates, and thought we can talk about that, amongst the policy committee, and or we can wait for the first meeting and then determine how we want to proceed. But we could definitely meet more frequently than the proposed dates. I would say for all of the committees, if the committees feel the need to meet more frequently, they have that discretion to do so.
Any other questions? None. It's our second opportunity for public comment. Anyone in the public wish to speak? There being none, we'll move to item number 9, recommended policies for first reading.
Recommended policies for first reading. Policy 0141, board member number and term. B, policy 0146, board member authority. C, policy 0132, executive authority. D, policy 0152, board officers. E, policy 0171, duties of president and vice president. F, policy 0167, public participation in board meetings. G, policy 0168, recording board meetings.
Second. Any questions?
I have one comment just about the duties of president and vice president. We had talked about maybe putting something in there about the president being someone who would acknowledge an email from someone in the community. And I didn't know if we wanted to memorialize that in a policy or not, but it was discussed.
the board, I mean, it's up to the board. I mean, we can definitely amend that and include that. And just to, refresh everyone's memory, it was really just that. When an email communication is received, the board president typically would be the one responding to that, at least acknowledging receipt and then forwarding that to the superintendent.
I'm okay with that, so long as the acknowledgement contains, I am forwarding this on behalf of you to the board, to the superintendent. As long as that's written in policy, I think we're good.
I mean, that's up to the board. It's not something that has to be in the policy. A lot of times, like Mark mentioned, that's just standard protocol the way it's understood that board president is the one that responds.
Any other questions?
So what happens with do we vote on that? Is it gonna get voted on? Like, what happens with that now? Oh, it's just a discussion about it? Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's feeling to me like it's not something people are feeling passionate about, so we can just leave it. I just wanted to bring it up because we had talked about it, so.
Okay, poll the board, please.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Ms. Drake.
Yes.
Ms. LaRusso.
Yes.
Mr. Laverty.
Yes.
Ms. Patel.
Yes.
Mr. Weeks.
Yes.
Ms. Lands.
Yes. Item 10.
Motion to approve routine items by exception. Having read the materials received, I move that the board approve the routine agenda items as submitted. A, staffing for January 27th, 2025. B, approval of EWRSD Memorandum of Agreement. C, HIB report from January 13th, 2025. D, approve HHS spring sports schedules, spring 2025. E, approve MHK spring sports schedules, spring 2025. F, approve new field trip site for upcoming trip. G, approve ESEA carryover amendment of full year 2024 through 25, Title 1, 2, 3, 3 immigrant and 4. H, approve acceptance of additional 8% of New Jersey High Impact Tutoring Competitive Grant Fund. I, approve United We Discover grant to WCB. J, approve HHS overnight trip to Princeton Blairstown Center, Blairstown, New Jersey, February 2025. K, approve travel and related expenses, virtual and in-person. L, out of district placement. M, professional services for students. N, approve use of competitive RFP process. O, transportation bid results. P, approval of settlement agreement. Q, transportation jointure. R, regular session minute approval 1/13/2025. S, executive session minute approval. T, bill list of January 27th, 2025.
Second.
Any questions?
Mr. President, we do have a request for one addition onto the travel agenda for tonight. One addition for Tina Lands to attend the 2025 Women's Leadership Conference on March 3rd of 2025. It's a one-day conference from 9 to 4. The registration cost is $150 for school board members, and I would also request $100 for incidentals for parking, mileage, and also tolls. Thank you.
Thank you. And Polly wanted to know under both, regular session minutes approval, Kavitha Madhuri is, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong one, is mentioned under the oath of office to new board members, but she wasn't present. And under exec session minutes, she's mentioned as absent, but also wasn't present to be sworn in yet. So technically not a board member. So we're going to remove that from the minutes. Is that correct?
Are they still there?
They're still there.
Okay, I'll talk to Vindy. I had a couple comments passed along to me today, which I had shared with her, so.
Oh, I understand. It was a late
I will go
notice.
back and discuss that with her tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Just so the board is aware, those changes will be made. Thanks.
Appreciate that.
Okay, pull the board.
Well, wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
I had another
Go ahead,
question. Under the item, okay, where'd it go? The settlement, item P. There's nothing in there? Is it just understood which settlement agreement we're talking about, or should there be an employee number in there or something?
Well, what we can do, we can just place the settlement in executive content. We didn't place it in it tonight because we already provided it to the board.
Oh, understood.
But in terms of memorializing it, I think that's a good point, Bob, in terms of, without it just being generic.
And there was, my head is kind of scattered tonight. Let's see, what else? I think that's it. Let's move on. Oh, I'm sorry, I did have a question on the contract approval. So item B is an approval of the memorandum of agreement with the EWR supervisors. I assume that's the Supervisors Association, is that correct?
It is, yeah, supervisor group. Their current collective bargaining agreement expires June 2025, so we are slightly ahead of the schedule here, which is unusual, which is slightly unusual, but we did conclude that negotiations process pretty efficiently, so we're ahead here.
Excellent.
Which is comforting.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions? Pull the board, please.
Ms. Concepcion,
Yes.
Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Ms. LaRusso,
Yes, for all, abstain from B.
thank you. Mr. Laverty,
Yes.
Ms. Patel,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Lands.
Yes. Oh, abstain from line item. Thank you, because it was a last minute add. K, any travel and related expenses related to myself, yes to everything else. Since there's no need for a second exec session, I motion to adjourn. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.